Hello and welcome to another episode of the Empowering Leaders podcast. At Aleda, we are passionate about inspiring connections and creating a world of collaboration. Our signature program, Aleda Connect, curates groups of 5 to 6 leaders from diverse backgrounds in sport, industry, social venture and the arts who come together to learn, to connect and to collaborate.
I've probably had some of the most radical changes out of that leadership group. The significance of their work and how much it's really about helping others. It made me think, what else could I be doing? And I approached our owner, and within a few weeks we'd raised $5 million to try and solve obesity in the underprivileged community in Milwaukee. So that's one spark that leadership course has caused to contribute and leave the world as a better place.
It defines the word creativity for me. The ability to see connections where none seem to exist. And I think that's the magic of Aleda. Definitely not my usual, workshop panels like humanitarian spaces, but more of an intentional dissection of leadership.
The Empowering Leaders podcast is proudly brought to you by Victoria University, where cutting-edge sports and exercise science facilities like heat chambers, performance labs, and altitude environments mean VU is ranked 7th in the world for sports science. VU, uniquely you. As always, a big thank you to Jason Nicholas and his team at Temper Bedding, a mattress like no other. If you enjoy listening to the Empowering Leaders podcast, be sure to subscribe, and please, if you have a moment, we would love you to leave a review so we can reach more listeners and empower more leaders. This week's guest on the Empowering Leaders podcast is a true powerhouse of Australian netball, Tania Obst. Tania's journey from a talented player to head coach is full of resilience, strategy and a deep passion for the game. The Obst family are sporting royalty in South Australia. Their father Trevor, a 4-time premiership player with Port Adelaide, is an Australian football legend. It is no surprise to me that Tania has carved out a successful sporting career of her own. Tania took over the Adelaide Thunderbirds on the back of them losing 23 games in a row. And under Tania's leadership, the team have achieved incredible success, winning the last 2 championships. Tania, thanks for joining me this week.
Cheers. Thanks very much, Luke.
I want to start by asking you, it's a difficult thing coaching sport at the elite level. It comes with a lot of challenges. What's been the key to you to build the successful culture that you have?
Yeah, look, it's probably been getting the right mix of players, I think. That's been a big key for me when I came into the role. It was around, 3 sort of pillars, I suppose. And one of those was about creating the right environment and having the right sort of people along the way. And, the culture piece is something that, I've grown up with and seen success and what it looks like at the highest level. And there is no doubt that creating a culture where, people can be themselves certainly goes a long way in helping in being successful on the biggest stage.
Which, Tania, is easier said than done at times, isn't it? It takes a lot of skill to do what you've done, and you've had great growth and success as a team. Can you tell us about some of the challenges you faced along the way to bring that culture that you just spoke about?
Yeah, look, Luke, if I think about when I first came into the role, I was all gung-ho, had a great sort of 3-year plan and was going to build this amazing team and create this environment and have the right game plan. And it sort of that sort of started to happen. And once you started to get into the nuts and bolts of the actual season, holes can start to appear. And that's where, I think we also sort of had COVID sort of join us as well. And it was just an ability to sit back and reassess where we were at and work out, well, how, we can play this game, but what is it that's sort of holding us back? And there was no doubt that the culture piece was one that was missing. And I think, we were a new team that had people coming from all different areas of the world with all different backgrounds and cultures. So it was really about us creating that sense of belonging within there and understanding and delving deeper than that surface level on what is it that everyone brings, what is it that we can share, and how do we actually get further than just the how you going, yeah, okay, sort of conversations within our team.
Yeah, you mentioned a diverse range of backgrounds, people from overseas and different upbringings, and sports a melting pot of bringing those people together, as you described, but trying to get them working for each other to achieve a common goal. And you mentioned that sense of belonging. Can you give us a bit more detail? How do you make that work? It's the key, I think, to so much success in business or in life. Is there one particular story that jumps out at you?
Yeah, look, I think, I sort of go back and I talk about sort of the success that I had seen and been a part of in my earlier years. And, that was very much people being brought up together and learning and developing together. But the biggest challenge was, bringing in some Jamaicans. We had some English players, and what we really had to do was establish, well, what is it that we do want to achieve here? And our aim was always to make finals, and that was always the aim. But it was more around sort of the why, and when what was hitting the fan on the court, how are we actually going to help each other through that situation? Because it can be a very, very lonely place out on that arena. And we started to talk more about those situations. We started to share experiences that we'd all sort of had, and there was some sessions where there was tears and people being really vulnerable and opening up and sharing some experiences that they'd had in the past where perhaps they had opened up and it hadn't been necessarily received in the way that they wanted it. So creating that sense of belonging was really important to me, and really delving deep and understanding the individual and what makes everyone tick was really a really key point. And I do remember after one of those sort of sessions with our culture and leadership person that it was almost like something just clicked within the team. There was just more trust on the court. And when it did start to get really tough and tight out there, we knew that we were working for one another for a common purpose.
Michelle Obama says the biggest misconception about her is that she has it all figured out. I'm still figuring it out, she says. I still feel like an imposter often. And Seth Godin says imposter syndrome is the price of entry for a life spent creating. When I rang you and I said, Tania, come and join me on the podcast, she went straight to there. She said, I'm feeling this overwhelming imposter syndrome. It's something that, I think the greatest people have that. Can you tell me how that shows up for you?
Yeah, well, your phone call was one of it. I suppose for me, I've always been, it's about the doing and the creating. And I really like to be judged on my actions. I'm not comfortable talking about myself, and you'll recognise that I'll start to deviate to where my team goes and talking about my program rather than necessarily myself, because I come very much from a background that is about team, and we play a team sport, and it isn't going to be one individual that actually makes that team. So I think that's where it shows up, where the spotlight starts to then sort of come onto the individual. But I know that I'm one person amongst many who have helped us over the last couple of years get the Thunderbirds back into finals, and then obviously sort of winning the past two premierships.
Tania, I mentioned the legendary sporting history of the Obst family, your family, and your dad, Trevor, or Bubbles, as he was affectionately known, a legend of Australian football, and right across the family, your uncles and cousins and everywhere are incredibly talented sportsmen and women. What was it like growing up in that family?
Yeah, it's a little bit interbred, isn't it, down the sort of Port Adelaide with sort of, families marrying families. But I suppose you're in a similar situation to us, where it's what I knew. Like I was a little bit younger, didn't see my father play, but obviously did barrack for Port Adelaide and saw a lot of success there, and so I was just very immersed in that environment. My weekends were spent sort of sitting in the Foss Williams stand at Alberton Oval and watching Port Adelaide generally win. And then come September, or what is now October, I would then get to sing the song a lot of the times and had a lot of fun on grand final night. And it was just surrounded by success, I suppose, and that winning culture, but not necessarily understanding that that doesn't happen for everyone. I've sort of learnt that over time, but for me, it was great. I create a lot of friendships around there and with people who were experiencing the same things. And I think once you're involved in the Port Adelaide family, you're there for life, and there's a common sort of thread, and it's I obviously wouldn't change it for the world.
One of the most successful sporting clubs in the world, really, Port Adelaide, and an incredible place. They say more ashes are spread across that famous Albert Oval than maybe any cemetery in the world. It's the diehards, as your family are
So
remarkable.
We've got about 3 or 4 family members whose ashes have joined. A lot of supporters there.
The ghosts of Albert Oval. I know those stories very well. You've got a great reputation, Tania, for developing young people in particular. What's the key to that in your world?
Yeah, I love working with young raw athletes who perhaps aren't quite sure what to do with some of their talent. I think probably one of my strengths as a coach and obviously a netball coach is the ability to spot talent, and then about that nurturing of that talent and what it takes, and the learning of the game. I think probably also the tactical side and the ability to help athletes work their way through has been one of my strengths. And I just love when I see a young athlete sort of come through and have a spot on our team, and then just make the most of their opportunities. And it's not going to be for everyone. And I know in my previous role at the Sports Institute that just to be able to bring talented athletes in and develop habits that are for life. And it may not mean that you go on and play at the highest level, but you are creating life habits, not just sort of, for netball. You're creating those habits that are going to help you through life. And but that's probably been, like that real passion of mine to be able to nurture that talent, to help them explore what that looks like. And you need to create, as we've talked about, you need to create that environment that gives them that opportunity. And I think that over the last couple of years, our program's been able to bring through some of South Australia's best young talent, and we've aligned that with some of the best athletes in the world. And we've obviously sort of reaped some rewards there.
We all are born different. As we grow, the experiences we have develop into outlooks uniquely our own, charting our life's course. No one sees an idea, opinion, or opportunity like you. And no one sees you like VU. Victoria University. Uniquely you.
At Aleda, our signature program, Aleda Connect, is something we're really passionate and proud of. We bring together groups of 5 to 6 people around the globe from diverse backgrounds, sport, industry, social venture and the arts, who come together to learn, to connect and to collaborate.
The Aleda Connect experience for me has been transformational. I met people that I would never have met from totally different spheres. It's very basic. It's all about relationships. It's all about how we communicate. And what the Aleda Connect group does that is so powerful is when you bring 2 people from 2 totally different worlds together, there's no ego. It just leaves room for the real you. And I think that's what Aleda gave me, was bringing back the real me and really connecting to my own leadership style.
Tania, we're very proud to have you part of the Aleda Connect community, where we curate groups of 5 to 6 people around the globe who come together from different backgrounds to learn and to share and to collaborate. Can you share some of the people that you've connected with in that world and what that experience has meant for you?
Yeah, I absolutely have loved my Aleda Connect cohorts. I've actually been lucky. I've been in 2. My first one was probably about 3 years ago, and we're still catching up on probably an 8 to 10 week basis now, and Adam Vogue from WA Cricket has been in one of those, and we've also had Alison Crabb and Jeanette Bates from a real estate background. And so when I was talking to the leader group, I had an opportunity to join not just a sporting group, but having some business people as well. And I took that opportunity because I wanted to just sort of spread my wings a little bit there. And, it's interesting that we've all have same sort of challenges, whether that be people management or, different problems that come up. And it's been great to get sort of a business lens that some of my first cohort have been able to share some of their experiences. And there's always somehow how you can lap it over into your sporting world. And then the second cohort that I've just sort of been into, our third or fourth group there now, is just with sport people. And that is obviously also offering a different lens as well. And I've been able to share and ask them some very pertinent questions that they've obviously got very lived experiences with, and can share that back. And, you talk about the imposter syndrome. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Sandy Brondello, who's been to the Olympics, and she's wanting to ask me how you go back to back in a premiership, and Emma Hayes, who is just doing, has done marvellous things in English women's soccer, and is now leading the USA soccer program over there. And she is I just love her humour. I love that pommy humour. And Jenny Bocek, who is the first female coach within the NBA, and just some of her challenges that she's been able to share, and offering us the opportunity to give sort of feedback where we can. It's sometimes really difficult to find that hour or hour 15, whatever it is, but you just come off and you still feel so refreshed and motivated and ready to go. It's been I've loved it. I've loved all of those sessions.
Yeah, thanks, Tan. We've, as I said, been really privileged to collaborate with you, and I love how small the world is now, that you can, in real time, with colleagues that are doing extraordinary things around the globe, and your success translates, of course, and all the wisdom that you've gained over your incredible life in sport as well. Speaking of patterns of leadership, it's something that we've loved seeing, the privilege to sit down and do this podcast. And I want to ask you about, in the bracket of what we call self-leadership, and asking you, what do you do, Tania, to be your best so that you can lead others in your world effectively?
Yeah, it's probably something that I really, maybe 10 years ago, I was offered an opportunity to do some personal development through the AIS, and I think it was a really great opportunity for me to be able to understand self more. And we really delved deep into some areas that perhaps I'd never explored before, and was quite a little bit sort of confronting with some of your blind spots. But what came out of that was that I have a real thirst for learning, and a very growth mindset, and wanting to understand and to be better, because the better that I can actually be is obviously only going to be helping the programs that I'm working in. I'm always looking for how I can find an edge, or be better on game day. I try to jumped at the opportunity to go on this second Aleda Connect cohort, because I just knew that there was going to be some pearls of wisdom drop there, and just trying to make sure that I take those opportunities that do present, and then understanding and putting them back into my program. Is one thing I have done in the past is maybe get all of this advice and then it's sort of sat in a folder, but I've been able to really sort of lay that out amongst our program now and share that, and I've certainly learnt that through Aleda, and conversations that you can have with those coaches. So just always looking to be better. I love holidays, and I love holidays that generally have a sporting theme attached to it. So, when I'm over at the Australian Open, how can I find my way in to speak to, a tennis coach, or, if I'm going to the footy, how is it that I can sort of connect with someone that just might be able to just see something that could be the 1 or 2% difference that, makes a difference.
Yeah, we can see that intense curiosity to get better and everything that you do and the great success you've had. Is there one piece of leadership advice that you pass on more than anything else to others?
I think probably, with some of my the young girls that I've come through, is they're very much in a hurry and everything has to happen now. And if it doesn't happen now, then is the world going to fall apart? And, I've been able to share, I was never good enough to play at the highest level. But, my experiences that I've gained has obviously led to me, becoming a coach at a high level. And, I suppose I try to instill in my players that it's not going to happen immediately, but it's just that desire to keep improving, keep being better. And it's when it's luck is about having done the hard work and when the opportunity arises. So that's probably been a key when some of the younger athletes that I've been working with, who perhaps aren't climbing the ladder as quickly as they would like to, but understanding that there is a process, and success will find you if you keep putting in that hard work.
When you think of a vision for success, you've clearly had a really clear vision of what you wanted to achieve, and you've gone and done that with back-to-back championships. How do you go about passing that on to the team and getting them to buy into the vision that you've shared?
Yeah, I was really lucky probably about 4 or 5 years ago to sit down and listen and a chance to speak to Gilbert Anoka, who was the mental skills coach with the All Blacks, and I think was their leadership manager sort of, over 20 odd years. And he broke down what they did at the All Blacks, and he just broke it down in a way that really simplified perhaps my sort of, when I relayed it to the plan that I had laid out. And it was just sort of, the three things that really stood out for me was about empowering the athletes. So, we needed to be leaders that were worth following, was one of the things that he spoke about. So what is it that we're doing, and how do we empower our athletes to also be those leaders? And it needed to be something that we were work worth doing, was something else that he mentioned around, well, what is that meaningful purpose that we're doing, and how are we creating that environment that they want to come and do their job every day. And then the other one was about that belonging, about that the culture worth contributing to. And they were three really sort of key pillars that I sort of added to my plan, but I really brought the team along with that. And they were really, really bought into it. So I had this plan and it was all sort of mixed up, but he really, just by sitting down and listening to him sort of speak, everything sort of fell within those three pillars. And in the chaotic world that we work in day to day, they are the things that sort of drive what we can go back to, what our anchors are when things can get a little bit chaotic. So, but that's not just me doing that. That is obviously our staff and certainly the players who are a part of and are actually living sort of what we're working towards.
Tania, we can see how intensely curious you are, and a lot of the leaders, that is a really common word that we see. Has there been a latest rabbit hole of curiosity that you've gone down that you could share with us?
I have some athletes who have probably challenged me in a good way, and maybe a couple of years ago I would think, why are they asking me that question? I made a deliberate decision that I would open up and go, where are we heading with this? What does this mean for you? Why are we asking these questions? Because it was something that I just thought, are we not on the same page here? So that is something that I've deliberately done probably over the last 12, 18 months, I think, to really explore some of our athletes who want to know why, what is happening, how does that help? And by doing that, we've been able to also create some deeper connections, and maybe even I've even also looked at things a little bit differently that maybe I wouldn't have looked at in the past.
No, brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. We love this the quote that the cost of leadership is time, and we've all got a finite amount of it. How do you find the way to balance that with home life and achieving what you want in your sporting life? How do you find a path to allocating that time for success?
Yeah, I probably have real like that work-life balance. Is that where you're heading? Yeah, I really try and have specific things that I like to do, especially in the season where things get really hectic. There are times certainly after a game where I just make myself switch off because I've done it in the past where you just haven't, and it's not healthy for anyone. So there are certainly times when in the week that I schedule switch off time. Listening to your podcast, Das, is probably one of the things that I have on my list to do, and I always just try to get out and get away at least a day a week if I can, just to completely sort of check out from as much as you can when you're in season. But I have to plan that time, or I'll make appointments with people or myself. Otherwise, I can get it all too consuming. So certainly blocking in that time and setting that from the start of the season, and remembering I come back to my pillars to go, no, that is actually my time, and it's okay if I haven't actually done everything, because if I don't do this, then I'm not going to be any good for anyone.
Tania, do you have a mantra when it comes to how you communicate in your world?
I'd like to be as honest as I can be. I can be a little bit harsh, but fair, I think, is probably something that I have needed to work on a little bit. I think sometimes in early days I've probably been too honest, or delivered messages maybe that have been a little bit too blunt. But I've sort of really thought about that empathy side of things, and speaking to athletes as humans first, and also not sugarcoating things, but having an ability to go to give them the truth as best as I can, and being very clear and asking questions back from them, because I've certainly left some meetings, not just with athletes but with staff, and we've left with very, very different examples, of like very different sort of situations that we've left in with very different messaging. So very much around that human first when delivering messages, but then seeking to understand back from the athletes that I've been speaking with.
Tania, who's been the greatest leader in your life?
There's probably a number of people. I think, I mentioned Gilbert Anoka before, and my time with him was short, but it was so impactful. Just helped me put pieces together. I think Marg Engove is probably somebody who really comes to front of mind. Marg is a legendary netball coach here in South Australia, and she was flying the flag for netball and for women's sport before it was a thing. And, I look at how she was a head coach of the similar competition that we play in now. She was also a mother of three. She ran her house, and she was also the South Australian Sports Institute coach. She really did so much, and just was able to compartmentalise all of that. And I just admired what she did and how she really was such a powerful voice for our sport back in the day when perhaps it wasn't getting the noise that it needed.
I've heard you mention Gilbert Anoka, who was famously connected with the All Blacks, as you said, and your collaboration with Emma Hayes and Sandy Brondello in Aleda. We are a bit obsessed with collaboration, Tania, and I can see you seek it out regularly to keep self-improving, as you've described in this chat. Has there been someone else in any passion of your life that you thought, oh, I'd love to collaborate with that particular person?
One person who I have sort of collaborated in the past, and I don't like filling her ties too much, is Tracy Neville, because she's we're competitors now, in our competition. But I've known Tracy for a very long time, more from on a friendship level, and we had the opportunity to work together in England. And she is a fierce competitor, and when we started working together, it was I saw her in a very different light as a leader and as a coach, and but she also, we were able to really work together and add an element of fun to it. And the work that we do and the landscape that we work in can be really lonely at times, and you've got to be able to enjoy the people that you're working with and to have that layer of fun. And I know with Tracy that we certainly, when we did work together, we worked very, very hard, but we also had some fun along the way. And that leads me, I'd really love to be able to work and delve a bit deeper with Emma Hayes, because I feel very aligned with her personality and the way she goes about it. But I also then look at what she's done with women's soccer in England and now in the USA. I'd love to be able to try and link up with her if I'm ever in the States at the same time with her, just to go and have a sneak at her program to see how she runs and how she really works with her staff. That would be pretty cool, I reckon.
Tania, it's an incredible story of success, and you can hear how clear thinking you are and why it's no mistake that the people under you get better in everything that they do. And as I said earlier, it's been a great pleasure to get to know you through the Aleda community. Really appreciate you taking the time. And I know you're so humble. You were, had to almost talk you down to say, Tania, please come and join me. I'm glad you did. I learnt a lot from it, and wish you all the best for the coming year.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks very much.